These are the voyages of the program Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Its ongoing mission to explore strange new movies, to seek out new bits and new edification. Boldly go where no radio program has gone before. Oh, Cat's Movie Club. It's Cat's Movie Club. Cat's Movie Club. It's Cat's Movie Club.
With Kent Wogelman of the Lincoln Journal-Star. Good to see you again, Kent.
Yeah, it's good to see you guys. I've got a cat about 4 feet away staring at me like, what are you doing, you weirdo?
Is it an orange cat, Kent?
No, he's black.
Ah.
Yeah.
Orange cats are the fun, dumb ones.
Wow.
Orange cats are goobers. They're dumb. I'm saying this in a loving way. In
Interesting,
an endearing
Nick.
way.
It seems like you hate cats.
I don't hate cats.
Sometimes I get I know you kids don't believe in the Facebook anymore, but there are some videos that show up every now and then where it's a montage of cats getting scared by other things and like jumping all over the place.
Those are also available on other websites.
Yeah.
Or
John.
getting on. Well, but this is where I see
Also,
it.
John, cat videos are the cornerstone of the internet.
The
those are
entire
the
internet
idea.
is built on cat videos.
Porn and cats.
That's all
is
the internet is.
Yeah, and football stats. EPA.
There's a word I could use.
Well, I think we're allowed to now, John. You can kind of say whatever you want to these
No,
days.
I'm not going to do it.
Okay.
I can dump you if I need to.
I'm not going to do it only because we need to respect women.
Oh,
And
great
that's
call.
The first name in the title of our movie.
It is.
I'm not going to do the drop.
Woman of the Hour, which stars and is directed by Anna Kendrick, which I had no idea that she was directing it.
Believe it is her directorial debut.
You would be correct there. It is based on a true story of a serial killer who was on The Dating Game, the television show The Dating Game, back in 1978, in the midst of his serial killing, in the midst of his murder spree. So obviously based on a true story. The thing I knew nothing going into this other than Anna Kendrick is in it, and it's about a serial killer who was on a dating show. And I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. And the thing that jumped out to me at first, or maybe when I finally noticed it, was when you realize the dating game component is happening in 1 year, and there is there's
an alternate timeline.
It goes ahead, and suddenly he is still killing. And so my thought process was, she's going to go on this show, and this is going to lead to him getting, or he's going to go on the show. It's going to lead to him getting caught. And that is not what ends up happening. It's in the midst of everything. He is, in theory, trying to kill this woman and does not, but goes on to kill more people. So I thought that the way that they used time in this movie is the thing that I will probably stick with me, in the days, weeks, and months to follow.
And that structure had to be done very well, or it doesn't work at all, right? It either it works and it does what you said, or it's an utter disaster because it makes it impossible to follow what's going on in a movie, right? Kendrick did a really good job of separating those two and yet making them fit together as a film. And the other thing that this movie does that is it doesn't have all the serial killer tropes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it actually does 3 or 4 different things. One, it doesn't celebrate the violence, so to speak. There's not much on screen in the violence part, right? That's by design, right? It also makes the victims characters, not just victims, even if they're only on screen for a small time. But in the case of that hitchhiker, that's pivotal, and you get some sense of character. And then the killer is not a typical serial killer, right? In a what you expect on screen. And I think that feeds into this as well.
What do you mean by that, Ken? Like, because he's kind of a smooth talker, especially like on the dating game?
Like, yeah, and he doesn't come across like instantly evil. And, most of the serial killer movies you see, after you figure out who he is, then it's, oh, he's terrible, right?
Yeah.
And you can tell this guy doesn't let on that way until the time, right? Like when he's on the show, he's the best of the three on the show, right?
Yep.
In answering her questions, which is not what you'd expect from the, this guy's just a guy out killing people.
Right. Yeah. He's the chivalrous character right? Of the three on the dating game. You got the Ophi guy who's just very uncomfortable.
Who is the smartest in theory of them all, given his profession, but yeah, he is horrible with women.
Right. The second guy is the guy who's just there to, get laid.
Yeah.
And he's kind of outed by, and it's Rodney Alcala and it's based off the real name, the real person.
Yeah.
He's the serial killer, but he comes off as the chivalrous one, exposing the other one for, the fact that, well, you're only doing this because you want to get. Yeah,
he brings on the air. He brings up something that character that contestant number 2 had said to him, and he's like, I won't say exactly what he said to me, but and so it's like, wow, he's very much a smooth talker.
I meant to look this up. And I'll be honest. Now, the dating game was a little before my time. I mean, I remember it. I remember seeing some reruns, but. Do you remember the episode? Did you see the episode? Have you seen it?
I don't remember the episode. I remember reading about the serial killer later on. But I remember seeing it when I was a kid. It was big popular. There was the dating game and the newlywed game. The newlywed game, I think, came after. And that was, they'd ask these couples to, they had to match their answers, right? And there are a few hilarious things that came out of the newlywed game that I won't repeat here. That were really.
It looks like, by the way, I just did a quick search. I think that the video or the movie the episode might be available on CBS.com.
Whoa.
Might have that actual episode. That's pretty wild.
There is like on YouTube, there's an Inside Edition story that shows clips from the original episode. And
here's a 10-minute video of that episode.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And actually they did a pretty good job, and I don't remember the actor's name, but he does look he did look like him. Daniel Zavato.
Yeah.
And he did. Yeah. And he's posing as a photographer.
Yeah.
Who's just, he finds these beautiful women and he's like, hey, you look great in this light and all this other stuff. And of course, the women kind of fall for that. And that's how he lures them into his web.
What will continue to stick with me from this movie is I feel like it was directed toward men in a way to where it wanted you to feel the helplessness it must feel like of being a woman. Especially in that time period, because that one girl who was in the audience, when she tried to talk to her boyfriend dismissed her. When she tried to bring it up to other people, they dismissed her.
Well, yeah, they send her up to what she expects to be the showrunner of the dating game, and it is the janitor.
And the movie constantly flipping around in time to show the victims where what's going to happen, but they obviously don't know what's going to happen, and just seeing that switch. And I think Anna Kendrick's goal with this movie was to make you understand what it must feel like to be a woman in a situation where you could be talking to a really nice, normal seeming guy, and then in a second they just flip completely.
Yeah. And I felt like Kent, every time that he switched, he being the serial killer, every time he went from nice guy to evil, it was like the actor did a good job of just kind of the light goes out of his eyes.
Mm-hmm. And it was instant. And I think you're 100% right, Nick, on that. I think that was what was underlying why she wanted to make this movie, right?
Yeah.
Because, and it's also, I think, probably she was originally attached to this movie just to star and not direct.
Yeah.
and then it went somewhat sideways, I guess, in the pre-production, and she ended up directing. That tells you she wanted to make the movie for a reason other than starring in it, other than making it. And I think she did that. And that was kind of what I was trying to talk about at the very first, where you made the people characters, you made them real, and it wasn't the typical serial killer tropes, right? It was it's a different, and it comes from that female point of view without any question. And that's why I think she also said, look, and when you watch the movie, she's like, there's no happy ending in a story like this.
No.
And I wasn't about to make one.
Yeah, I mean, we know he obviously gets captured, and but the fact that it's revealed that he may have over 100 different victims over several years, just tells you how eerie, this person was.
How many after movie, little title screens did they put up to explain all the?
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of stuff
Yes,
there.
there
And
was.
it was like, oh my god,
It was.
yeah.
And I don't, you think about, the famous serial killers, the Ted Bundys, the John Wayne Gacy's, stuff like that. I had never heard of this.
Same.
I had never heard of this. And I'm surprised because, I mean, he literally was on a major network television show and used it to try to lure one of his victims. And so why do you think that is, Kent, that maybe it got lost to history?
I don't know exactly when it came out. It may have been, that he had been on the dating game, right? I'm not sure that would have come out at his initial trial. Somebody probably.
Oh, so it may have been discovered after the fact.
Yeah, my guess is
okay.
It wouldn't have had anything to do because he didn't actually kill anybody associated with the dating game, right?
Right.
I mean,
right.
I'm not giving anything away saying that he didn't, right? And so they wouldn't have known that he'd been on there, and then somebody went, well, somebody maybe with the show went, well, wasn't that guy on the show? And that's how it finally got out, would be my guess, that it wasn't any part of the arrest or trial or anything like that.
This movie was terrifying to watch. I made me deeply uncomfortable, and I had I watched it with my girlfriend. It made her way more uncomfortable than it made me. And I saw a bunch of these stories online of other people who had watched it with their significant others, and they said that their SOs also felt extremely not great about this movie. And it's because I saw some people saying that the messaging was heavy-handed, but I think it had to be heavy-handed just to get that feeling to come through. But that's why I think that the movie was probably not intended for a male audience, but I feel like if you're a woman watching this movie, you don't need that message because you kind of already, unfortunately, know the message of the movie.
So then wouldn't it actually be for a male audience?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. This movie just made it. I'm confused about who this movie is for, just in how it's supposed to make you. It feels bad. It's a good movie, but it makes you feel bad watching it. It made me feel bad watching it.
What do you think, Kent?
Well, I suspect that there was, when you go into, at least my experience with this, when you go in to make a movie like this, I don't think you're necessarily thinking about X, Y, or Z subset of an audience, right? Whether it's women or men or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think what they do in this case, I think she wanted to make this to talk exactly what Nick was talking about before, to show the female side of this and this perspective of this guy. Any guy could do this, and where they get put in. Also, and we mentioned this before, there is so much, and it's not all gone. There's so much, basically misogyny and sexism that permeates this whole time period and this whole show. It was very good at picking up literal period details. That's what life looked like back then.
Yes.
That's what the dating game looked like back then. They did a very good job of that, but they also did such a good job of capturing what that was like in a different sense. Like when she gets to the dating game, and the host guy comes in and tells her, "Don't be smart. You're too smart for these guys. You know, just laugh and smile a lot.
And get a different dress on. He touches her shoulder."
Exactly. Okay. That was this, that was the 70s, but it isn't, all of that isn't entirely gone in our society. Right. And that's part of also what she wanted to portray. I think my guess is in hopes of reaching, yes, wanted men to see it, but just wanted to make it so people can, get that, so she could get it out there. And it's, I think, makes it a really interesting movie to be a directorial debut.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, because it's difficult material. And
like you said, it doesn't end on a happy note.
It does not end on a happy note. And it's, it's a non-traditional movie in that it doesn't follow a
linear timeline.
Linear timeline. It moves back and forth. So, as far as that's concerned, I would say that she passed with flying colors, and the fact, she's the central star in the movie. And, it's the character that we kind of attach ourselves to the most, because most of the movie centers around her, even though her character doesn't actually get affected. By the way, the real life story, the woman who won the date with him did not go out on a date because she thought he was creepy. So, like, there's a scene where, it's like he's following her in the parking lot. I think is dramatized for the film,
for the movie. Yeah.
But in the real life story, he never did end up getting the date with the girl that he won in the dating
Well,
game.
it was interesting too in the movie, and I would love to know how much of this was real and how much of it was just dramatized. But the serial killer is contestant number 3. He is talking to contestant number 2, who, if you're just watching the show, you'd be like, oh, that guy's a sleazeball. Well, he gives him this photo of presumably one of his victims. And then afterwards, contestant number 2 tells her when they do their goodbyes, like, watch out for this guy or whatever it was. And I wonder if anything like that actually happened, or if it was just, the way he was.
Did you notice that 2 gave him his address, but he never gave his address to number 2, implying that he was going after 2?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What a movie. Honestly, what a movie. I'm not going to watch it again because it just made me deeply uncomfortable. But what a movie.
I don't imagine I will either.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily one of those that
it's not a rewatchable.
That's really rewatchable, but it is an interesting story.
It is,
and it's a good period piece. I thought it captured the time period pretty well.
Yeah,
the acting was fantastic. When they're on their first date or whatever in that bar, he said something, and immediately you could tell that there was a switch. And then Anna Kendrick did such a good job of portraying that, both in her body language and her responses to things.
And she's not necessarily somebody you instantly think of being a good dramatic actress, right?
Right.
Her past work has been comedy, or
at
least lighter fare.
Rom-com type stuff.
Very good. Yeah.
By the way, the actor who plays the game show host, Anthony Hale, I was trying to
Tony Hale, from,
where's he from?
Arrested Development
And Veep.
Yes, yeah.
He played Gary.
Yeah,
on
he just
Veep.
has different. He just has hair on this.
Has the sideburns too.
Oh, and that hair piece he had was hilarious.
That was him, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
And that was pure 70s. Those sideburns that came down.
Brutal. Sideboards, as the British would call them back in the day.
Yeah,
those were nasty.
We should bring him back.
Feel free, Nick. It's all you.
So it is Woman of the Hour, and it is on Netflix.
Yes.
If you'd like to check it out. By the way, they also did a biographical movie about the killer himself. It was called The Dating Game Killer. It was broadcast on the Investigation Discovery Network. And Discovery, isn't that part of the Disney family now?
I think it might. So maybe it's on Disney Plus.
So you might be able to see, if you want to see the actual true story about his life.
What would be the name of that again?
The Dating Game Killer is the name of the biographical film. And it was broadcast on Investigation Discovery. So there's another one there. And 48 Hours Mystery also did a story on it a few years ago, and 2020 did an episode about it. So
okay, so there's plenty of material out there if you want to learn more.
Yeah, if you want to learn, I'm surprised that this is it's not more known.
Well, like Kent said, at a certain point, someone would have figured it out. I wonder when it was that they, who stumbled upon this.
Well, they used some of the footage in his trial about had something to do with earrings that he was wearing or something. So they were aware that he had been on the show in his trial.
Okay, so they did know it all the way back then. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly at what point did they realize, oh, this dude was on the dating game, but
yeah, fascinating.
Maybe they recognized him.
Could be. It was a very popular show.
Popular show based off of his answers. If I'm assuming it's a similar thing had happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was giving similar answers to similar questions.